Constitution will come to order. I want to thank my colleagues for attending. I know it's a busy day, and thanks particularly to the ranking member, Senator Cruz, for being here. I know you're in the midst of a Rules Committee markup. 2 weeks ago, the subcommittee had its first hearing on constitutional and common sense steps to prevent gun violence, focusing on extreme risk order red flag statutes. We're here this morning after a weekend of hundreds of deaths and injuries in 72 hours across the country to explore another step to prevent gun violence, restrictions on the deadly proliferation of ghost guns. At President Biden's direction, the Department of Justice and ATF have issued a proposed rule to close the ghost gun loophole and stop the spread of these deadly firearms. This step is historic, it's commendable, it's critical, but the rule must be made permanent. And until it is made irreversible with legislative action, it can always be reversed by another president, which is why we're holding this hearing today, and why I am reintroducing the Untraceable Firearms Act with Representative Cicilline of Rhode Island on the House side to close this loophole once and for all. There is nothing ghost-like about ghost guns. They look like guns, they shoot like guns, they kill like guns. They are guns, except under federal law. They are becoming the preferred instruments for criminals and violent extremists, the fastest growing gun violence menace in the nation. Only under current federal ATF regulation is the statutory definition treating them not like guns. Behind me are two pictures of guns. One is a standard gun. One is a ghost gun. I challenge you to tell the difference between them. A ghost gun is, in fact, fully functional as a firearm. It can be made at home using do-it-yourself gun-making kits or a 3D printer. This frame, in a so-called jig, was made by a 3D printer. It can be made by anyone, drilling holes to make it functional, and then parts can be bought in a gun store or elsewhere. It becomes a firearm capable of killing, injuring, and doing as much damage as any firearm bought in a store, except it has no serial number, it is untraceable, and often undetectable. The kinds of kits that produce that firearm contain a, quote, unfinished frame or receiver, the key building block regulated under federal law and normally subject to background checks and serial number requirements. Unfinished is really a smokescreen. Ghost guns are intentionally designed, marketed, and sold to require as little technical expertise, time, and effort as possible to assemble. All one has to do is to finish this core part by drilling a few additional holes. Some sellers even supply the exact drill bits as part of their kit, alongside the rest of the components needed to make a functional firearm. It is purposefully that easy. Because the frames and receivers in these kits are, in quotes, unfinished, none of the normal federal gun laws apply. No background checks, no licensing, no serial numbers, nothing. And since these kits are unregulated, anyone can purchase them. minors, convicted felons, anti-government extremists, violent white supremacists, foreign terrorists. Fair game for all of them. No checks, no regulation. They are, in fact, fast becoming the weapon of choice, costing as little as a few $100s and taking an hour to assemble with YouTube tutorials. The number of ghost guns is surging. The number seized, the number used in crimes, the number manufactured, all are skyrocketing. And at this rate, they will make a mockery of all other common sense gun safety steps. They will render meaningless background checks and other common sense regulation that now apply to make America safer. Last March, news outlets started reporting that the do-it-yourself ghost gun kits were, quote, flying off the shelves, and that manufacturers were, quote, reporting widespread back orders and shipping delays due to a pandemic buying surge, end quote. We have no really reliable metrics about these ghost guns because they have no serial numbers, they're unregulated, and there's no reliable count on how many are manufactured and sold. The most reliable metric we have concerning the number of ghost guns, in fact, in our communities is the number recovered by law enforcement. These numbers represent just a snapshot, but they are staggering, and the trend is alarming. Right here in DC, ghost gun recoveries skyrocketed from 116 in 2019 to over 280 in 2020. And the story is the same in almost every other jurisdiction. We're going to hear more about that trend from Attorney General Shapiro and Commissioner Harrison in just a few minutes. Last May, 60 Minutes reported that at least 38 states and the District of Columbia have seen criminal cases involving ghost guns, including mass shootings, police shootouts, gang busts, terrorism, and white supremacist extremism. In Connecticut, police have recently seized ghost guns in narcotics investigation, traffic stops, and home invasion. In Hartford, in recent years, police have seized roughly 10 ghost guns per year, and just last fall, police arrested a suspect in possession of a ghost gun in connection with a shooting in East Hartford. Guns without a serial number recovered at the scene of a crime are untraceable. Without a serial number, law enforcement can't trace that gun to a seller or to a shooter. Ghost guns make criminal investigations difficult, and if there are no other leads, impossible to solve. As a result, those criminals are never apprehended, let alone prosecuted or convicted. One last staggering statistic. From January 1, 2016 through March 4th, 2021, ATF attempted to trace 23,946 privately manufactured firearms, ghost guns. Out of those nearly 24,000 attempts, only 151 could be completed. That's less than 1%. That could mean, very simply, that 24,000 murders, assaults, armed robberies, and other crimes go unsolved. There is no reason, none, to treat ghost guns differently than any other gun. They look like a gun, they shoot like a gun, they kill like a gun. They should be treated as guns, and I invite both sides of the aisle, my colleagues on both sides, to support the Untraceable Firearms Act to close this loophole permanently, and I now turn to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses who are here today.